The iPhone 13 Pro has been out for about a year now, and it's really surprised me in a lot of ways. So in this 1-year review, we're going to talk about the pros and the cons of the iPhone 13 Pro, starting with the positive. My 13 Pro is the Sierra Blue model with 512 gigabytes of storage, and when it comes to design, I think this phone is yet another iconic minimalist masterclass in product design from Apple. The squared off edges and the use of heavy glass and metal make it feel really premium, almost more like a fancy piece of jewelry. The rear glass has a beautiful frosted shimmer to it that reflects light beautifully, and I love how the camera bump seamlessly floats above the design. The whole phone is just so clean and the build quality feels incredibly solid. And I've been using the iPhone 13 Pro with no case, no screen protector. It's held up really well. The front of the glass does have a little bit of minor scratching and stuff that you can't even see in video. There's a bit of slight cracking going on in this corner down here, but other than that, it looks almost brand new. And this phone has withstood many drops with no case, no screen protector, and it still looks this amazing. It's kind of insane. So when Apple makes these claims about the strongest glass ever on an iPhone and that kind of thing, I kind of believe them. And that's really the reason why I don't use a case or a screen protector on this phone. I just feel like it doesn't even need it. So overall, I love the design of this phone. It's incredibly beautiful. One of the best iPhones Apple has ever designed. When it comes to performance, this thing is absolutely bonkers. It has the A15 Bionic chip. Like almost everything I do on this phone is basically instant. Opening apps on this phone, browsing the web in Safari, editing videos, editing photos in Lightroom, listening to lossless audio in Apple Music. Really nothing has ever slowed this phone down. It's super fast, there's almost no lag for anything, and I kind of feel like performance-wise, we have kind of reached peak iPhone. You aren't really gonna notice a lot of these speed differences like on the 14 Pro that I'm getting after this one. Is it really gonna be that much faster? We shall see, but this is already like instant. So like, how do you improve instant? Apple will find a way. I'm sure they will. So now probably my favorite feature of the iPhone 13 Pro, the cameras. And the cameras are insane, y'all. It shoots beautiful 4K video, the photos are crisp and sharp, autofocus is insane, and the video quality in particular is just bonkers, especially when you use the ProRes codec. And that's one of the reasons I got 512 gigabytes on the 13 Pro, because you can't shoot ProRes unless you have at least 256, and really the camera in this phone has been so impressive to me that I have the Sony a7 IV that I'm shooting on right now. That's my main YouTube camera. I shoot, nicer portraits and stuff on there, but most of the time, I would say like 95% of the time, I reach for the iPhone 13 Pro to take my photos and videos because the quality is that good. This is the camera in my pocket that's always with me. This is my main camera. And most of the time I'm using this to shoot photos kind of informally for social media or to take, videos for TikTok or Instagram stories. The cameras on the 13 Pro almost never have disappointed me in the last year, except when it comes to low light, in which most phones, if not all phones, are kind of trash. I mean, it does a pretty good job at trying to compensate for low light, but yeah, it still has a long way to go, even with deep fusion and all the crazy technology that's going on. And since this phone has the squared off design, you can actually set it on a desk or a table or any flat surface, and it'll actually sit on that surface without a tripod, so you can take selfies, you can shoot your TikToks and that kind of stuff. The 13 Pro has this beautiful 6.1 inch display that for me is kind of the perfect size. It's not too small, it's not too big. Videos look amazing on this thing. The brightness is more than enough for what I need, especially when you're watching HDR video on this. It gets incredibly bright even in the sunlight, and it's honestly one of the best displays on any device I've ever used in my life. And like a lot of other Apple displays, this supports the P3 wide color gamut, which is fancy talk for colors look accurate on this display. So if I'm editing photos or something, I know what I see on this screen is extremely accurate. And not to mention, very sharp. I can read text really easily on this. Details, the contrast, the saturation, just everything looks so good on this display. It really is that good. And I'm very particular about displays. This one is insane. Another huge pro of this display is it supports ProMotion, which is one of the best features on the 13 Pro, honestly, besides the cameras. ProMotion means the display supports up to a 120 Hertz refresh rate, so it saves some battery by refreshing the screen at whatever rate it thinks you need for a smooth experience. Scrolling around Safari, reading the news, whatever, just scrolling just feels really smooth on this display, and when I use other phones or other devices that don't have 120 Hertz, I definitely notice it now. So it's like once you go ProMotion, it's really hard to go back to 60 Hertz. And the phone is already insanely fast, and ProMotion with the smooth scrolling just makes it feel even faster. Another very impressive feature of the 13 Pro after 1 year is the battery life. After 1 year, battery health is down to 91%, and it's still operating at peak performance. I can easily get through an entire day of use, kind of normal to moderate use, and not have to charge it throughout the day. And I don't do anything crazy or specific when it comes to charging. I basically just throw this on a MagSafe charger by Belkin that I will link down below every night before I go to sleep, and then when I wake up, it's fully charged. I use it normally throughout the day. I almost never have a problem with it dying in the middle of the day unless I'm shooting a lot of like 4K video, taking a lot of photos, or it's just like a heavy work day on my phone. Then I will have to charge it kind of towards the end of the day. But for the most part, I never have to worry about, how much charge I have left on this phone, but it has gone down a little bit after a year. So now let's talk about the dark side of the 13 Pro. There actually aren't very many cons for the 13 Pro because it really is that good, y'all. But if I had to choose something, it would be the comfort and the weight, like the feel of this phone. While it is incredibly beautiful, the hard edges around here, the 90-degree type of situation on all sides of the phone, it does kind of leave an imprint on my hand. And I do find this phone to be kind of uncomfortable to use. Like out of every iPhone that I've ever used, this is probably the most uncomfortable because even though it's not the Pro Max, this is just the Pro model, it does have a pretty good amount of weight to it that is noticeable, especially if you're coming from something smaller like the 11 Pro. I mean, don't get me wrong, the design and build quality of this phone are incredible. It's definitely made with premium materials, glass and metal, but because the glass, I guess, is so premium, it is kind of heavy. It does feel like a heavy device. Like when I upgraded from the 11 Pro, the weight and the size of this phone definitely felt noticeable, especially the weight. And as much as I love this beautiful rear glass, it is very slippery and kind of hard to hold. And I know I could throw a case on this, but I think it's just so beautiful. I don't want to ruin the aesthetic of this. And when I go back to the 11 Pro, it's a lot lighter. The rounded edges are just so much nicer. I wish the internals in this phone were the internals for the 11 Pro because I actually think the 11 Pro is kind of perfect when it comes to a design. Also, when I'm at the gym or when I'm hiking or something and the 13 Pro is in my pocket, it feels kind of like a small anvil or something. It has that weight where it's just like slapping against my leg and it's like, oh, this phone is a little bit big. I've gotten more used to it after a year for sure, and it doesn't bother me as much, but it's still not a comfortable phone to use in my opinion. Another con of the 13 Pro is it still uses the lightning adapter on the bottom to charge. The lightning connector actually makes the 13 Pro seem a little bit older of a phone, even though it has like crazy technology otherwise. Not a deal breaker, but it just feels like the iPhone needs USB-C. Come on, Apple. Another con of the 13 Pro is it's kind of expensive. Like it starts at $999 plus tax, and my version is 512 gigabytes, which comes in at $1299 plus tax, which totals out at about $1,400 US, and that's pretty expensive for a phone. It is a flagship phone. It has a bunch of amazing features. I use the hell out of it. I think it's totally worth that money, but at the same time, if you're on more of a budget, this is not really a budget-friendly phone, especially when you could be getting an entire like MacBook Pro, MacBook Air, and iMac with the same amount of money that you would spend on one phone. But if you're on more of a budget, there are plenty of other phone options that are way cheaper, such as even the 12 Pro from a year before this. The 11 Pro is still a fantastic phone a couple years later. And because all of these phones, even the older ones, use the same operating system as the 13 Pro, the overall experience is very similar, but at a fraction of the cost. But other than that, this phone has been incredible after 1 year, and I am super confident that you could use the 13 Pro for another 3 to 4, maybe even 5 years. But let me know down in the comments below what you think about the 13 Pro. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Did you skip it for the 14 Pro? Do you think Apple is just total trash? Let me know down in the comments. And since you made it all the way to the end of this video, I humbly salute you. Thank you so much for being so patient. And to let me know that you watched all the way to the end, leave the hamburger emoji down in the comments. And that lets me know that you are officially part of the House of Aqua. And speaking of the House of Aqua, please join our Discord server. Link to that is down below. We would love to have you. We talk about tech, Apple, all kinds of cute things. Hope you have an awesome day, and I will see you in the next video.